Good morning, church. So the title of today's sermon is Time to Step Up Spiritually. You know, God gives man great desire to do great things. But sometimes I do actually wonder what is so wrong with man. I mean, in the last couple of weeks, man landed on Mars. And what did they find? Nothing. Do you know how much effort it would have taken to go to that next level and go to Mars? People spend their time growing and trying to do something great in incredible ways, and sometimes you look at it and go, let's just stand back a moment. I think that's stupid. So last night, my son and I were bonding, and thank you girls for taking Kerry out for her birthday. And there was this thing called extreme sports. I went, that sounds great. Set in England. In this village in Gloucestershire. And the extreme sport is chasing a cheese down a hill. Okay. And you actually knew that some of the participants were also from Japan. You've got to have some Japanese with the English doing some crazy things, right? You always know they're like the game show host, people. That's incredible. But here are these people, and they said, Usain Bolt is meant to be the fastest man on the planet. Because, okay. Well, actually, the cheese is like this big, okay? The course is 110 meters. And the guy that won it did it in 8.2 seconds. Okay. And he's standing at the top. It is 45 degrees and not smooth. And then, so they show you the race, the guy wins it, and then they show you like the build up to it. And they go up there before and practicing how to jump off this cliff, basically, and you are expected to fall. And so he goes, when you fall, just so that you don't break your head, etc., when you fall, you roll out here, and then you bounce back up, and you roll back here, and you go, I was like, this is really cool. And then you step back and you go, are they all just idiots? And then there's a man's team, and then there's a women's team. Okay. This girl did it when she was 17 and won. She won it a second time. In the third time, she snapped her collarbone so it came out. And it's never been able to, it can't go back in, so she's doing it for a fourth time. Why? Because no one has ever won it 4 times. And you're like all good documentaries, she's halfway down. And she's got this bone already sticking out, okay? And then she slips and you're like, no. And then she hits her up, she gets up, yeah, no. And then someone's just about to beat her over the line and she just throws herself after this cheese. And you're like, are we just idiots as human beings or what? Sometimes you feel like, okay, there are, time to step up. We're always trying to achieve. I looked at some other things like the first 4-minute mile and you think that was such a big achievement. Now lots of people do it. Sometimes greatness is thrust upon us. When JFK died, the vice president, Lyndon Johnson, took over. Most people would have never really remembered him unless that was thrust upon him. And Shakespeare says, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. I think most of us in this room are like Obed. It came in the form of a little tap. It's just like, time to step up, buddy. I think sometimes we want God himself to appear to us. So it goes, somebody takes me and says, Joe, what's the difference between being chosen and being called? Or when there isn't one? He said, no, doctrinally I want to study this out with you. I said, there is nothing doctrinally to be. God wants everybody to become a Christian. He wants everybody to do great things. The only issue is whether you respond or not. And I think sometimes we're like, look, Paul had Jesus appear on his bed. I remember the first year I studied with someone in Sydney. Pete and I studied with this guy, and he said, Jesus literally appeared to me on the end of my bed. I said, so you're going to follow these scriptures? He went, no. Oh, okay, hold on a second. He genuinely was a mature man, businessman. He said, Jesus appeared to me on the end of my bed. I said, all right, so you're going to follow these? No, I feel like he told me to do this. So even if Jesus does appear to you, doesn't mean you're actually going to do it. You still have to choose to be chosen. Are you going to step up spiritually today? We're going to start in Exodus 17, verse 1. It says, the whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord had commanded them. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was found in the desert of Sin, I would want to leave too. Okay. I'd go, okay, little hint here, guys, not a good place to be. Come follow me. Okay, but some of us, and it took me time to get out of my desert of sin. But here, basically, Israel had left Egypt. So I think some of us are in that place where we've left the bad place, but we're still in the desert of sin. You're out, but you're not all the way out to where you need to be. Come on. And so this is the time of Israel's journey from the darkness of living in slavery in Egypt and entering into the promised land. This bit represents our journey to become a Christian. So you sort of know that you need to come out, but you're not totally there. Israel's time in the promised land, many people think represents heaven. No, it doesn't. If you read it, you go, wasn't that great? That's our struggle on earth. That's actually the time in the kingdom. That's why you go under good leaders, bad leaders, all sorts of stuff happens. You've got to survive the challenge of being in the church. When we become Christians, we learn for the first time to obey God. To obey God in whatever he tells us to do, in wherever we go. That is the first time, but it doesn't mean that's it. You haven't arrived, you've just begun. We're called to be led by his Spirit, just as the Israelites were. In Exodus 13:21 it says, by day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of the cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. God said that I will give you my Spirit. In the Old Testament, it was literally a pillar, go here, and when it gets dark, go here. We're given the Holy Spirit to follow, doesn't mean we actually follow it. I wonder how many little kids, you can imagine at night, right, like 8 little kids go out and go, let's have a look at the pillar of fire. Is mum and dad sleeping? Should we go round it? Should we go up to it? What if we go the other way? That's like we are sometimes. We go, I know what the Spirit's calling me to do, but do I really have to do it? God's Spirit does not want to leave us. However, sometimes we want to leave God's Spirit. And that's what we have to be careful. So today we're going to talk about stepping up spiritually and what it takes. Well, point number 1, stop being so worldly. Or let me put it another way. Stop being so emotional. There's nothing wrong with emotions. But when we go, I feel equals truth, that is worldliness. That is worldliness. So in Exodus 17, verse 2, it says, they camped at Naphtali. There was no water for the people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses and said, give us water to drink. Moses replied, why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test? But the people were thirsty for water, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, why did you bring us out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, what am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me. The Lord answered Moses, go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take your hand, the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand before you by the rock of Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink. So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called that place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? The Israelites faced what I think we would all agree is a legitimate challenge. Hey, we need some water to drink. First, though, what do? They go and take it out on their leader. Moses, we've got a problem. I cannot believe we've got a problem. And I can't believe that this problem is not only affecting me, it's affecting my wife, it's making her unhappy, it's making my kids unhappy. They started quarreling with her. Why did you do that? Why did you even come into my life, Moses? Why did you even... Look, we were in Egypt and we could have stayed there. It's amazing how quickly we forget how bad our old life is. Then they went around grumbling. You ever done that? You just go, well, John, that Jesse, you can't believe what he told me to come early for Bible talk and bring the food. What? Doesn't he know how difficult it is for a brother to arrive on time to Bible talk with his food assignment? Doesn't he know? Can't he ask the sisters? What's wrong with him? Don't know why you're smiling, James. Okay. They never took their problem to God. We never see them praying. In actual fact, the only one who did not grumble was the one that we find praying, which was Moses. Thank God for spiritual leaders. They just should have simply got advice. That's what Moses did. Hey, God, we've got a problem. What should we do? He goes, no problem. Do this. Okay, I'll do this. Why don't we seek advice when we have problems? It's mind-blowing. Sometimes we really love to grumble about a problem. I appreciate Elias's contribution talk. God, why? He goes, good question. Did anybody know that Elias has got a problem up? Any of you angels know? Oh, missed that one. I'll take it. Sorry. Okay. So he goes from having a problem to having excess money. Because he was like Moses. It doesn't surprise me that happened to Elias. Why? Because you go, what do you do at 4 o'clock in the morning, Elias? Well, that's when I get up and have my 2-hour quiet time.
Right. Come on.
You see, the Lord knows Elias.
Yeah.
And Elias knows the Lord.
Come on.
And then he goes to his gym. He doesn't go to his gym and then doesn't have time for his quiet time. Oh, it's totally the opposite way around. Question. Are you more of a Moses or a grumbling Israelite? Are you quick to pray or quick to fight and grumble? Are you more led by your emotions or your righteousness? You know, God is sovereign. God allowed or made this problem happen. I don't know really why the confusion came. They were in a desert. You would think, desert, hard to find water, pretty common thing. Most of our problems, let's be honest, are normal problems, aren't they? They're not, most of us don't face these dramatic, extraordinary problems, but once or twice in our life. Most of them are like, yeah, that's pretty common. Hardship is sent by God to test us. Yeah. God sent them into a desert to test them. God gives us leaders, you're not going to like this one, God gives us leaders to lead us into hardship. Hold on, Joe. Can you say that again? God gives us leaders to lead us into hardship. Mission team leader. You follow him into hardship. Plant a new Bible talk. You follow them into hardship. Doesn't matter where it is. Wives, your husband, follow him into hardship. Husbands, follow your wives into hardship. Kids, everything is hardship to us that want this peaceful life. Being given responsibilities in the church. Therefore, we need to understand that grumbling against leadership is grumbling against God.
Right.
No, it's not. I remember the first time I studied the Bible. See, you know you're not allowed to grumble against God, right? You sort of know that. You go, that would be a bad choice. All right? God, I've got a real issue with you. Most of us have read Job and gone, I know this isn't going to go well. So we go, you know what? I'm not going to have an issue with God. I'm going to have an issue with the guy that studies the Bible with me. I always say this when I study the Bible. I'm not a particularly vengeful person. I have many weaknesses, but bitterness is not one of them. Hopefully, yeah. And I don't want to. Okay. All right. Anyway, the guy that studied the Bible with me was a guy called Patrick Manley. He is the only person I've hated in this world. And I've had a pretty rough life in some areas. But you see, he said, I'm not a Christian. He didn't say it. The scriptures said it. But I couldn't say, God, you say I'm not a Christian, because it was really hard for me to accept. So I said, Patrick Manley told me I wasn't a Christian. I phoned up Mum and said, I've been studying the Bible with this guy, Patrick Manley, Mum, and he tells me I'm not a Christian. She's like, ooh. And he's told me you're not one too. Well, then he can't be right. This is what she said. Said, Joe, how long have you known me? Oh, my life, Mum, 23 years. How long have you known him? 2 weeks. Who are you going to trust?
True.
Oh, there's the emotional one right there.
Right.
See, but we want to blame somebody else. Hadn't you figured it out? Eve wanted to blame, Adam wanted to blame Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. And the serpent said, yeah, you're right. It was my fault. And you were stupid enough to follow me. See, so one thing Satan does, he owns himself. He absolutely does.
Yeah.
So I'm angry, and if you want to follow me, then you're an idiot. He only says that after you followed him. They even ask, is the Lord amongst us? Isn't that like, God, are you even with... Do you even know I exist? Yes, he knows you exist. Believe me. Do you ever ask, is the Lord with me? Or is he even with my Bible talk? Or is he with my church? That's never the real question, though, is it? The real question is, are you with the Lord?
Come on, Joe.
That's always been the real question. The question is answered when challenging times come. There's this expression, a friend in need is a friend indeed. You only really know if somebody is a Christian if they come through the hard times. If they come through the hard times. Is it time to toughen up? I mean, it was really interesting that this cheese chasing competition. At the first day, honestly, they're standing at the top looking down. And you've got some nutters that are like, can't wait, just throw over, break my head. And literally people break their arms, break their collarbones, and they're like, I can't wait. 8 seconds of complete pain. That's meant to be us as Christians. That's meant to be us as Christians. I think about it. You've got to understand as a Christian that God will catch you. It's not going to be that bad. When I first learned to ski, I was working in the Alps in a hotel. I had no money. So I asked one of the waiters, can I borrow your skis? And I didn't have any money, and it cost quite a lot to learn. So I went, I've got a plan. I'll take enough money to go up the ski lift and no money to come down. And so the only way to come down is to point, I have never learned to ski before, is to point and just go, push me. And so this was my plan. And it's exactly what I did. I got up there and literally you shpoof, and it's not softy, bam, bam, bam. Then I got this really other great idea. I went, if I aim for that person, I'll hit them, stop. It won't hurt me so much. So then I went boom, boom, boom. And eventually, 2.5 hours later, I got to the bottom. And on the way up were the other waiters. These were Austrians and everything. And they said, what are you doing? I said, well, I couldn't afford anything. And they were like, man, we could have helped you. We could have taken you up. I said, well, I've learned now, haven't I? Honestly, some of us are like that. We're independent. We go off, I want to go off, we're struggling with prayer. I'm going to go and figure it out on my own. And we just go and go, God, I'm going to pray to you. And then we stand there for an hour and go, that was a nice try. And we walk back. Well, we could have just asked somebody, hey, can you teach me to pray? I mean, we're such idiots. Being a Christian is meant to be more like when I jumped out of an airplane last year. You go, I could never do that. Why? You actually do nothing. You don't. You get there, you're strapped to somebody who's already done 2,000 jumps, and your only job is to enjoy it. You do absolutely nothing. You get in a plane that you don't fly. All right, you sit with a bunch of other people, and the guy's strapped to you. I was twice the weight of him, so if anybody was going to be worried, he should have been worried. All right, then he pushes you out. You just go, way! I don't know how to land. But I have to trust him that he's going to pull the cord at the right time. Then, as we're coming down, he goes, do you want to fly it? I went, do I? So I hold on to these things and I start, and of course we go over there so he takes it back. Okay, and then he goes, all you need to do is put your legs up and I'll land us. Yeah. All I had to do was trust my instructor and enjoy myself. Doesn't that sound like Christianity? All you have to do is trust your instructor and enjoy yourself. Yeah. So if you're not enjoying yourself, the issue isn't with your instructor. The issue is you're not trusting God.
Right. Come on, Joe.
How hard is it being a Christian? I tell you, in this country, it's not.
Right.
This is we were going back and forth with one of our leaders in India about how to convert people from an Indian background and Hindu background. And to illustrate the point, this is what she said about what they have to deal with in India. He said, what do we do here? Do we have to ask her to stand up against her family? He said, yes, she has to stand up to her family. The real test will be when she faces them physically. We make all of those people becoming Christians call their family and say they want to be a Christian, and they need to say, I will marry only a Christian. Wow. I have a sister who came from a Muslim background, and when she went home, the whole community and her uncle threatened her and was locked up for 3 days. They put a knife to her throat and asked her to deny Christ. She fasted even without drinking water for those 3 days and never denied Christ. They let her go and warned her not to come back ever. She is now a strong Christian and happily married. We don't have problems here. We don't have problems here. Do you believe calling someone to this standard is wrong? I think many of us do. Spiritually minded people are looking for something different. Worldly people aren't. They want to know if you will compromise. If you compromise, they won't follow you. They want to know, do you really believe what you preach? And if you're late for Bible talk and you're grumbling over here, they go, you don't believe it. You talk a good talk about an amazing God, but you don't believe it. Some of us are worried about being fruitful. God's like, you're not a great representative. You're just not. I've got this guy over here, and they've got to give up their family, their faith, their education, everything. But I'm waiting for somebody that actually is willing to stand up at that level to inspire them.
Right, come on.
Because if they come to you, there's no way with your life that they'll actually follow your example. You think about how many people have had to give up so much. You know, I'm really working with the trainee shepherds in the church, and this month's going to be great. We're going to, next week at Leaders, we're going to do a lesson on, Jen's going to do one on being a great student, because he's a great student. Hey to his mum and his dad, you're doing a great job with your son, phenomenal son. He blew out last week. If you haven't listened to it, lead to it. Brilliant preaching. Yeah. I'll do one on how to get a great career. Then we're going to have ones on finances by Bonnie and Obed. There's Crosses are going to do one on relationships. Pete and Pauline are going to do one on dating. So be a lot of good things at the leaders meeting. But I was thinking about Jesse, because we were talking on Friday night, and somebody came to his Bible talk and was sharing that they went to a church that was this really, really great church, and there was this guy there called Sam, who was a really, really great guy, and speaking in tongues and like this. And Jesse was like, there was a few things went, that's my mate. But see, when Jesse came into the church, he came in with his friend. And Sam, I had the privilege of studying with Sam and with Jesse. And unfortunately, this is quite typical of people. Often two people come in together, and as they grow as Christians, they go in different directions. Well, what happened is Jesse came in with Sam, and Sam had a girlfriend. And so we studied with Tessa, and she decided to become a Christian, and so did Sam. But we said, you know, when you become a Christian, you can't be worldly like before. You can't sleep around and touch each other's, things and everything like that. So you need to build spiritually. They went, yeah, I'll do that. And they actually decided at the beginning they'd break up for a little bit to just grow spiritually and then come back together. And we're all excited, and they did that, and they came back together, and that's it. But then, they started to see things in each other. And Sam got really insecure. He's like, you're trying to break us up. So we're not trying to break you up. What we're against is divorce. We want to build things solidly. Okay. And then he started getting grumbling, etc. And then he just decided to leave. He persuaded a few other people to leave with him and go, this is not right. But then what happened is this girl that he was dating, he got her to move in, which obviously is wrong. Then he was guilty that they were sleeping together. So he married her out of guilt. But of course, he didn't know how to take advice. That's why he left. So when she tried to give him advice on how to have a good relationship, it broke down. Well, he went off to a Pentecostal church because they accepted him because they didn't ask too many questions. Started preaching while also living with her. What a big mess. Eventually, she left him and moved to another country. Then he got disillusioned with God, left altogether, and went off and did drugs again. Jesse, during that period, had to make a big decision. Wow, this is a real test from God. My best mate's left. This is a big one. He wants me to come with him and start this little church. That ultimately failed because people don't know how to take advice. So now I need to stay strong. And boy, that was a really, really hard time. But Jesse went, no, I know what is right. I'm going to do what's right. This is super painful. I've got to hear all this slander and go, I know what's in the Bible. He stayed. And then this young girl started to like him because she saw how spiritual he was through a tough time. And she said, what do you think, Joe? And well, he's come through a bit of a hard one here. And I sat him down and had a big conversation about, counting the cost and everything like that. And then lo and behold, she fell in love with him. She said, I just want to, she came out of leadership to be at the same level with him. She built things solidly, fell in love, and then all of a sudden they started growing because they started making one good decision after another, one more spiritual decision after another. To the point where Jesse and Liz are now married, and now they, because they built it the right way, are giving classes on how to build great relationships. Was it tough not following their emotions? Absolutely. Yeah. Have you asked them, which path should you have chosen? He said, I chose the right path. So many people will give up so many world things. About Len. Len took Kira away for their anniversary and everything like that, which is what we encourage in marriage. But I remember when Len, in the first year, he was offered a soccer contract for $100,000 in Dubai because he's a professional soccer player. So we don't have a church there. You can't go. He said, oh, man, it's my dream career. They're just rolling out the carpet. That's $100,000 on top of everything else, you know. He said, no, I'm going to do what's right. And then later that year, Leslie, who was doing the singing, became a Christian. Yeah. And now you see them training to be shepherds as well. And you go, these decisions are hard, but the fruit of them is unbelievable. You know, is it your turn to step up spiritually, to become a Christian? I know it's hard. What, you thought it wouldn't be? Dying on the cross should have given you a little of a hint. Okay. Following Jesus, die on the cross. Going to have a few challenges. Going to feel a few things. Okay. Is it your time to step up as a leader? You know, I appreciate we sent out the email about the Brisbane mission team. It's already picked. It's already picked. People went, that's our time. Amen. Leslie, that's me. Jason, he's the IT guy. Leslie, you're the administrator. If you didn't know, you do know now. Okay. And then I said, well, we need some song leaders. Tap, tap. Alistair, AJ, tap, tap. Need some song leaders. Yes, sir. Here we go. Great. Off we go. That's it. That's the team gone. That's it. What if I tapped you? Would there have been one? Oh, yeah. Or like, yeah. So we've already got the Taiwanese mission team for the year after. We've already got the one for Beijing for the year after that. We've got the Brisbane team. Are you on it? Or would you be even willing to go on these? Point 2, you've got to run to the fight. Exodus 17:8. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites of Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, choose some men and go out and fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands. So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning. But whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. So in essence, because I've gone over on the first point, but here's the basic story. Moses has gone into the promised land. There is a massive battle. Now, we have to understand we cannot run away from the fight. Okay, being a Christian is hard. There is a spiritual war. We're against Satan. Things are going to get tough. In actual fact, life gets tough in all sorts of situations. You have kids, they surprise you. Okay, I'm sure Paulina and Pete wanted to be here, but Eliana's sick and goes, okay, our life changes. As soon as you try and do something great with us, have a family, build a church, there's going to be opposition. But what we learn here is we see that Moses needed help. As a church leader, I need your help. I can't build a church on my own. Nor I can't do it just with Kerry. Everybody needs to step up. And so Moses is here and he's like, okay, I need somebody to hold up my arm. Well, why? In essence, as you study out the whole Old Testament, it's actually a symbol of surrender towards God. It's actually putting your arms up. It's going, God, I can't do this. I need your help. Even in the New Testament, it says, you know, pray to God with hands held in holy hands high. Why? It's going, God, help me. I need you. And so what it says is, as long as Moses knew that they couldn't win on their own and held his hands up, they would win. But as soon as he went, you know what, I know it's getting tough. Maybe I won't do it spiritually. I'll just do it on my own. He goes, no. So Moses, what? I'm weak. How can I lead when I'm weak? Get some mates to help me. Okay, Aaron. Now he represents the guy that was chosen by God to be the priest. But this other guy represents the person that chose to be chosen. So you have two types of people. Those that were chosen, that was pretty obvious, God chose that person. You can see those people with the talents and God's given them. And, you know, somebody comes to the church, they've got a good voice, you go, that was God given. Then you have those who actually come in, they don't think they've got a good voice. And God goes, well, the more you start singing, you go, actually, you've got a good voice. And now you're going to get chosen. You know, it doesn't matter whether we think we're talented or whether we don't think we're talented. God created every single one of us for a particular purpose. You know, we need to understand that we are part of that victory. My real challenge to everybody this month is, look, we've had a great period in January, we had a great campaign, we had a great period in February when a lot of us did great things, but the truth of it is the church still hasn't grown. Some of the guys that came in that first month have fallen away. That is part of life. If you go quickly to Luke chapter 8, it says, this is the meaning of the parable. The seed is the word of God. Those along the path are the ones who hear. And then the devil comes and takes away from the word from their hearts, so that they may not believe and be saved. Those on the rocky ground are those who receive the word with joy, and when they hear it, they have no root. They believe for a while, but in a time of testing, they fall away. Every one of us will get tested. Everyone. I appreciate Carol. She got baptized yesterday morning. Carol comes from a non-believing Chinese background. And now that we've been able to, over a few years, convert many people in that, I had a big conversation where I said, it is going to be seriously tough for you. You don't have the Christian background to fall back on. You don't. Like, you convert Filipino, they know Moses parted the Red Sea and who Goliath is, and they basically know pretty much everything. But I said, what I've learned to converting atheists over the last period is for somebody from a non-believing background to stay faithful takes so much more effort than anybody else. Because when you get weak, you fall back into atheism. See, a Filipino will be falling back into being religious. A pagan like me would fall into wanting to be tempted with smoking. But I said, you've got to understand, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to work so much harder. I said, you have to understand the emphasis is on you. It's not on us as a church. It's on you. Now, God calls every one of us and knows that we can do it. But it takes an enormous amount of effort. And you need to run to that. So God, every situation that you're called in, if you're called when you've got a girlfriend and a boyfriend, the reason why God called you at that moment is because you're somebody that idolizes the opposite sex, and that is your temptation that God wants to expose at your conversion. That's why. Because he called you in a situation where you see yourself. With Jesse, it's because he valued friends over God. And he had to have that test, and he came through with it. For some of us, it's career. God has called you while you work on a Sunday or while you work on a Wednesday night, because he goes, you idolize your career. In whatever situation it is, God called you at that moment to expose who you really are. You have to face yourself and go, this is me. It may be that you put your family above God. It may be that you can't even wake up in the morning and don't want to get up. I remember studying the Bible with Wayne. I always remember this. This taught me a lot about students, Asian students. He goes, Joe, man, this commitment. I don't know if I can get up and pray like the guys. He goes, I stay up as a student. I work so hard. I stay up till 2 a.m. in the morning. I was like, man, I am so impressed by you. Wow, what a great student. What time do you get up? About 11 a.m. You sleep for 9 hours a day. I said, you just need to move your schedule. And that's very common in students today. They like stay up really, really late and then get up really, really late. I said, I can give you a few extra hours in your day. If we can get you to bed at 10 o'clock, you can get up at 5 o'clock. Wow, I can be a better student. Yes. And he's an exceptional student, gets top marks, everything like that. It's very, very good. But it made me understand. What he had to understand was, I need to control my schedule. That was the real challenge. You know, I need everybody in this church to raise up, to take a Bible talk, to take their life and go, I'm going to help Joe lead the church forward. You know, what is my challenge for you this month? My challenge for you is this. Very, very simple. Is to have the most radical month you've had. There are so many people that have stepped up. And you may have to figure out what that means. So right now, I think Mel is one of the people that's really grown consistently over the last couple of years. But one of the things she really had to figure out is she had to get out of debt, which she did. Then she was in a retail job. And any of you in a retail job knows that can be hard to be committed sometimes, right? Because you have to get back home and miss Evangelist and everything. She said, Mel, you need a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. So we got a resume. And that's something I used to do in my job. We worked on a resume. I talked about putting all of the achievements at the top. She went for interview. She went, Joe, this is really working. I said, I know, it's what I used to do. Okay, then she comes and said, it's amazing. I've got a 9-to-5 job based on my retail experience, and it's $55,000, and it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and wow, my life's so great. Hey! Sometimes you got to go, what is the real issue that's stopping me? It was the same with Chris when we met Chris. He was working all hours at McDonald's. Great training. I think it worked out about $6 an hour by the time they actually do it. Okay. So we have to pull him out of that. Move him into a brother's house. Get him in a situation where we build his life. Now he's got a job. Yes, customer services. $55,000 Monday to Friday. That's a big jump up that then allows him to have great quiet times in the morning, go out to evangelism, give special contribution, whatever it is. You've got to look at your life and go, what is stopping me being radical? Maybe it's a root heart issue like that. And you go, you know what? If I change my job this month, wow, that would change everything. Maybe it's simple of, I'm going to ask somebody to be my prayer partner because my prayer life stinks. I'm just going to be honest. It stinks. Help me. Maybe it's my Bible study. Maybe I don't have great relationships. All the talks that are going to be done at leaders' meetings over the next month are based on, let's deal with some really, really root issues here. There are so many other people that have just stepped up over the last few times. I think about people that have now put their hands up for the mission team. I think I put out an email yesterday about future training for future evangelists and women's ministry leaders. And I've called it the few, future evangelists, women's ministry leaders. These are people that are going to go and plant the churches. So I type in there, Alison and June.
Woo! Come on.
And I went up to June and say, are you scared? No, I'm excited. Okay, well, you expect that from June. How about you, Alison? Excited and scared. But then I was praying and praying and praying. And I thought, you know what? We've got so many of these islands to evangelize. And we've got Eric out there in Samoa. And I was really praying, God, what do you want to do with Eric? So I phoned up Eric and said, Eric, you've got all this great experience. I know you went out just as this missionary just for a year. Would you like to be in the ministry full time? Would you like to take one of those other islands? Oh, no, I'd love that. Okay, I'll just get back to you. Say, Christine. Oh, Christine, you know this whole going in the ministry sort of stuff, What about it? What do you think? He goes, okay, that sounds fantastic. So in the email I put, okay, future evangelist women's ministry there. Eric and Christine. So I appreciate her communion. Why has God kept us apart? Well, I believe over the last year she's had to get with several sisters, unwind the past a bit. I know Kerry's got in there some other great sisters. But you go, God's plans, he knows what he's doing. He's known what it is. So, I fully expect Eric and Christine, maybe Vanuatu, French Caledonia, Fiji, who knows? But they've all made decisions to take a step up. Whether it's Leslie or Jason being the IT guy for Brisbane, what it is. Maybe you haven't had the tap yet, but this can be a tap for you. You go, as of today, March, I'm going to have the greatest month I've ever had. That means becoming a Christian. Understand, obstacles will come your way. You need to overcome them. If you're going to make a jump up in other areas, obstacles are going to come your way. But make a decision not to pull back, but to overcome. Amen.